Thank you, Siren, for being here.
It's a pleasure to be here, Isabella.
Thank you. And before we start, how do you say Scandinavia in the native tongue? In the native tongue.
Scandinavian. How to say it? Scandinavian. Hello everyone. Welcome to the Actionable ESG Talks series brought to you by AKFI, Actionable Knowledge Foundational Institute, the world's first nonprofit industry consortium committed to bridging the gap between ESG, sustainability, and digital transformation. My name is Isabella. I'm the co-host of this talk series, here with another co-host, Manuel. Hello. And our today's special guest, Siren. Good to have you here.
Thank you very much, Isabella. It's nice to be here.
Thank you. Just a little bit about Siren. Did I say it right? I've been practicing, but still sounds
yes, correct.
Siren, right?
Siren. Mm-hmm.
Siren.
Yes.
Yeah, a little bit about Siren before we start the conversation, just to let the audience know. Siren has been served as the Director of Office and Internal Processes at Puro Hotels in Poland. And where she manages digital transformation and internal optimization and ESG. She's also the board member of the Scandinavian-Polish Chamber of Commerce. Thank you, Siren, for being here.
It's a pleasure to be here, Isabella.
Thank you. And before we start, how do you say Scandinavia in the native tongue? In the native tongue.
Scandinavian.
Scandinavian. We have the bleeps. Scandinavian-Polish Chamber of Commerce.
Scandinavian. Polish Chamber of Commerce.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for the Scandinavian. Scandinavian Polish Chamber of Commerce.
Indeed. Are we doing it again?
Scandinavian Polish Chamber of Commerce. Thank you, Siren. You got me. You ask me again at the end of the talk, and we'll see if it's real. If I learn it for real.
Sure, but you want to repeat? You want to film it one more time, or it's not important?
It's not part of our fun.
Maybe we shorten a little bit.
Scandinavian. Well, I can definitely repeat this. Okay. She's also a board member of the Scandinavian-Polish Chamber of Commerce. Thank you very much for being here, Siren. It's so good to have you.
It's great to be here, Isabella.
Welcome,
thank you for the invitation.
Awesome.
Hello.
So to start our conversation, what are your thoughts on current sustainability, ESG, and digital transformation trends based on your current activity?
In general, I think that it's hard to ignore the sustainability aspects for anyone in these days, with the scarce availability on resources, etc. Maybe I should mention that for me, in terms of ESG, I would like to focus today a little bit on this S, the middle letter in the ESG, like the social aspects in terms of digitalization. But also, like in SPCC, the Scandinavian-Polish Chamber of Commerce, we are also very much engaged in the circularity economy, and we're actually this week partnering up with a few other organizations, including the Norwegian Embassy and Innova, a local group where we are focusing on the circularity economy. And they will be published. We will actually, not we, but we are participating in the event where they are publishing the circularity economy gap report of Poland. But as I know, I've had a small sneak peek. I know that the results are pretty good for Poland compared to the European standard.
Oh, good to hear.
Mm. So, yeah, I mean, in terms of this, I think that the most important thing we are facing now, apart from, of course, being efficient and everything, is education. So I think that any company can do something, but also every private individual can do something, and every little brick can help us in bringing us forward in terms of the sustainability actions and improving the circularity in the economy or in the society.
And as you know, Siren, the AKFI, the Actionable Knowledge Foundational Institute, the K for knowledge, which links it directly to the education. But we're also looking at the not only the education in a formal setting, being the child or adult education, but we're also looking at the education which goes with the digital transformation, because the workforce has to move along. Any thoughts about how this whole sphere of education plays into?
Yeah, well, of course, like in terms of the education, I was also thinking about this informal, let's say, education, about building awareness, and people should be knowledgeable about how they are behaving as a responsible citizen, of course. So this is also what I had in mind. And some people, I have a feeling sometimes when you talking to people and they say like, well, I don't know even what it is, so I don't know what to do. But the thing is, like, if we just like build this awareness and we can make people understand that everybody can have an influence on the society and in the circular economy, I think that would be great. That was in terms of the ESG and sustainability. But also, like, I would like to maybe talk a little bit about the aspects around the digitalization. And what I'm doing right now in the company where I'm working actually in hospitality, a hotel chain, even though I don't spend so much time in the hotels myself because I'm working in the headquarters. But what we are working on is digitalization of all the internal processes, which should mean that our colleagues working in a hotel should spend less time on administration and more time focusing on what they love, the guest experience and collaboration and problem solving and that kind of things. And of course, by automating and digitalizing, they are freed up so that they can be more focused on what's happening around themselves.
In the recent case where you've seen this transition from, I shouldn't call manual, it's more like a person-to-person interaction to use digital transformation and support the digitalization process. Then there's a caveat. Many articles in the literature talk about digital transformation as being a challenge, because many times it's only the use of technology and they forget the human factor.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that this is very much the human factor, the social aspect. I mean, by being more efficient, by building digitalized processes, we are being more efficient. And as we are becoming more efficient, we are freeing up time so that people can spend time actually on the social aspects. It means that we can focus more instead of, let's say, data input or like handling documents. This is automated. It means that they are free to actually spend this time analyzing the information they have, or they can make more informed decisions. They can discuss among themselves. And I believe that this will actually lead to a more engaged workforce. Because, you know, like you can make more of a difference. Instead of doing the same mundane work every day, you actually, like, if the work is automated, you can focus your time on something that is more value adding. But of course, it's really, really important during an implementation of such a process to speak to all the stakeholders. Not only from the top saying, oh, we want efficiency and we want to reduce the workforce, but rather we should discuss it with the workforce. What do you need? What would make your day easier, your work day? What are actually your needs? what is bothering you and what can we make easier. This is how I'm also operating. I speak to my colleagues, I find out what they need so that we can simplify it. Yeah, so and also because of this, we can also make, if it's digitalized, it's not only that you spend less time doing your work, for example, but it also speed up the whole process. It means that we much faster have the results, and as soon as we have the process done, we have the information available, we can also make faster and more informed decisions, which is also good for the company.
Are some of these decisions related to sustainability in general, to ESG, since your responsibility? And there are few cases we've seen where the responsibility is shared between ESG and digital transformation. So it's very interesting. You know, your work is very interesting and in some way very unique.
Yes, I think so. But I maybe I can just, there's like a few aspects actually I would like to kind of draw, but one, I can maybe give one example. Thanks to digitalization, we of course go more paper free. We've removed the paper in the circulation, which is good for the trees. But that's not all. I mean, that's just a very simple technical aspect of it. But thanks to this, it also means that when people don't have so much paper on their desks, they can work wherever they want. So we also allow for the hybrid work model, that people can work from home, which is good for, let's say, their well-being with the flexibility. But it also allowed us to introduce activity-based work. And by using the, I guess you're familiar with the term activity-based work, that people work from hot desks. It meant that we, in spite of growing the organization by 30% in our transformation period, we reduced the office space by 20%. That, again, led to a reduced carbon footprint. And I don't know the percentage, but buildings is standing for quite a big part of the carbon footprint. So we are basically using less office space, meaning that we have reduced our own carbon footprint. In addition to the fact that we have less paper, and people are now circulating because they sit wherever they want. We have a much better communication. It means that sales may sit next to design or next to accounting, and thanks to this we are also learning more about each other's functions. So it's also a social aspect that is improving through this digitalization that we do in our process.
Awesome.
And before turning to Isabella, just a quick follow-up, but more than a question, a summary, because it's the first time it occurs to me, at least, that you know, a paperless society. Of course, there is the direct impact on carbon footprint, on trees, on paper, on circulation, moving these papers around, and so on. But the fact that it's a participant in workforce mobility, hybrid workforce, working at home, working remote. And you know, thinking of my library at home, also it all fits on a memory stick these days, and I can carry it with me in my pocket. So excellent link actually between sustainability, digital transformation, and the digital, you know, this aspect of digitalization. But Isabella, sorry, I wanted to give you a chance to ask your questions as well.
Thank you. So that was a really good example to show how in reality, digital transformation improve the environment, to increase the collaborative kind of way of working, right, among the people. And what are the challenges that you found when you started to implement these initiatives, or for your future projects?
Of course, change is always a challenge. And in my opinion, the most important thing we can do here is communication and engagement. So what we did really early on, I mean, these were like different projects happening at the same time. So I think that when we discussed office space, the people didn't necessarily understand that the digitalization had anything to do, one had to do with the other, but it was working kind of in the background. But what we did in terms of the office and how we would work on the office space, we engaged many stakeholders. So we had, like, for example, managers from the different departments to participate in workshops, with individual interviews, to kind of check on them what they needed, to make sure that they were that we accommodated for their needs. We also did like an employee survey where people were telling us what they needed. One of the, actually a little bit on the side of the digitalization, people said they don't have enough space for collaboration. They don't have enough, how to call it, nice enough design in the office. They didn't think it was cozy. You know, they were like having a lot of that kind of comments. So we made sure that you want more space, you got it. You have more meeting rooms. We have the phone booths. We have a nice kitchen, and we have a beautiful office. So they got something for giving up something else, because of course then we gave up the enclosed offices, so people have to sit in an open space on a hot desk, including our CEO, who is quite happy to sit there anyway. And that's good because he leads by a good example by sitting available among other people, of course. So we were basically like engaging them, having a dialogue with them, and then at the same time we were informing them on, as we were progressing, we were informing them on how things were moving on, and we were showing them also like what we take away and what we give. So I think this is they got what they asked for, plus a little bit more. And they were, yeah,
it's a
and
good
there was
deal.
sorry.
It's a good deal. Overall, it's
In
a
my
good
opinion,
deal.
it was a win-win-win. It was win for the P&L. It was win for the people who are working there. Win for the communication, internal communication, and not least for the sustainability. So
Awesome. So the communication is the key to move things along.
don't you agree?
Absolutely. And it sounds very encouraging that it actually working when you really hear your employees, when you negotiate with them, and instead of just making a closed room decision with the executives. Any other insights or tips you want to give out here in encouraging these kind of initiatives?
In terms of change in general, or
Change
thinking
in
of
general, and to really implementing ESG focused decisions.
Mhm. Well, I think it's always important to show what's in it for you and me, you know, to share this, yeah. Because when it comes to the ESG, we also, of course, we're talking about this efficiency, and if you put this office aside a little bit, but if you talk more about the digitalization, in terms of ESG, I think that the transparency and the governance bit is important. You know, like as we are processing, if everything is happening by word of mouth, we're just talking to each other and handling things our own way, then each, you know, there are no standards. But by digitalization, it also tends to be standardized. It means also that we have it's auditable, we have a trail, things are standardized, and we know that approvals go a certain way, signatures goes a certain way. Yeah, so I think that it's easier also from the governance part of the ESG. I think also that the digitalization is very helpful.
Awesome.
It codifies the processes, right? So now the processes also become automated, not only the each step of the process, if I understand correctly.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it has to follow through a certain steps. Yeah. So if we go like what we're doing now, for example, when we do contract management, for example, if we have defined who should sign, who should approve, who should check, then it's not like somebody else can just come in and do whatever they want, you know, like because we have defined the rules already. So then, in my opinion, that is ensuring that we have a certain conformity to how things should be. We agree on a process, and then we standardize it.
And that goes back to governance. Now you have control over the governance, so it's no longer, you know, I don't want to sign, go next door and have somebody else sign it.
It must be according to the pre-arranged rules, let's say.
Set of rules. Well, excellent. And one question: do you see an industry-specific element, or because I can see this, what you shared with us until now is generic, is general. I don't know if there are specific elements that belong to the travel, hotels industry that you can bring forward, or this we should take this lesson and we can run with it globally and across different type of industries.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, because what we are working on right now is more like back office, so like whether that would be a hotel or any other service industry, you know. I can't really think of anything that is like a very, very industry specific. But what I can say is that hospitality is very much focused on the guest. Our prime concern is to be in the center of experience and give the best experience to the guest. And the more we digitalize and automate and standardize, the more time our colleagues in the hotels have time to spend actually focusing on the service and the collaboration.
And this improves, of course, the guest response, right? Because
Yes.
we're still far away from having a robot,
Yes.
taking care of our hotel room.
Indeed. And that's also what I can tell you is that our guests do not want that. Because we started off with automated check-in 10 years ago when we launched the first hotel, and guests didn't want that. They wanted a host. They want to meet somebody when they come to the hotel. And we want to give them this personal touch. That's why we have to digitalize all the commodity aspects of the job. I can give you one example that my very good colleague, who is a chef in our Warsaw hotel, I complained that whenever I come to the hotel, I never see you. You're never in the kitchen. And he said, no, I know I'm not in the kitchen because I'm in the basement in the office approving invoices. And he's a prime chef. He should be out rather, supervising what's happening in the kitchen. So
the cooking is done in the basement, so to speak.
No. No, he's in the basement with the invoices instead of being in the kitchen.
I'm just kidding.
So basically, we need to allow the machine to take over what humans are not supposed to do, what machines supposed to do, right? To free them to do what they're really supposed to do. Chef in the kitchen, the front desk to talk to the customers, visitors. So that hasn't been changed after 10 years. The visitors, they want to see a real person as a host.
Yes.
That's interesting to hear because I know in Asia, they're pretty dominated by these little robots at the front desk for self-check-in, for flight attendants. Almost everything can be handled with a little thing there speaking to you. So this is not a thing yet in Europe. People prefer in person.
This is why we try to rather standardize the non-personal activities, meaning why the paper handling can be automated. So then we try to automate those aspects where you don't actually, I don't think there's any value adding of having a personal contact between when you handle paper.
Right. So is it true that seems like the philosophy to support your ESG progress or even your company organizational culture management is to free humans to do what they're talented to do and leave these repetitive machinery kind of thing to the machines, to the robots. And that's like it sounds to me the fundament of how you process with these decisions.
You're absolutely right.
And Isabella, I think that also draws a line maybe for a future book of yours. Isabella just released her first book, Digital Mind of Tomorrow. And it looks like the digital mind of tomorrow will still be controlled by the human mind, like human to human, and machine there in the back, helping the humans do their job.
Faith in humanity. Yes, I talk a lot about this relationship about machines and humans and how to interact, and I think what Siren is sharing emphasize on the positivity of how we can collaborate with machine, right? To empower us and to leave space for us to grow to the next level instead of competing with the machine on certain tasks. So I really enjoy that message, and I think that's what we should focus on in making future decisions.
And make 2 points. I'm sorry, go ahead, Paul.
I just want to say that according to some PwC research, there will be 30 million new jobs created for human beings. As we're being like some of the jobs we're doing today can be replaced by robots or automated processes. There will be new possibilities for us to do other types of jobs that is maybe more related to emotional intelligence that the machines cannot take over quite yet.
And a footnote in US, and I think in Europe, from what I read, we also deal with the great resignation, with people quitting their jobs for refusing to do repetitive and menial jobs. But also I wanted to highlight 2 points in this conversation so far. The point number 1 was actually the back office is similar everywhere. There are processes, especially in large companies. I work in high tech a lot. And when we start the process, there is no difference that I can sense between the back office of a hotel chain or a high tech company. And I think that's very important. The other one I want to bring forth a statistic, because statistics shows that digital transformation fails in 70 to 80% of the cases. And I think you found the solution is bring the human, ask the human, work with the human, work with your colleagues to create an environment that is for humans, not for machines. It's not optimized for machines. Airlines today, for instance, are optimized for flight paths of the planes, not for humans' connections. If you want to make a connection, sometime you may fly 1,000 kilometers one way and 1,000 kilometers back just to make the connection. And of course, all the implication on the environment. And, going back to part of the conversation, also, you clearly showed that sustainability and digital transformation and ESG, including governance, including processes related to governance and traceability, are tightly interdependent. So you're bringing very, very interesting points in this. Moving a little bit more into, we welcome, you're really bringing the things together. Going a little bit more into the gap analysis, and I understand this is part of a larger analysis of the European Community countries, or is it specific for Poland? When you talk about the ESG and sustainability gap analysis with the Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, this is actually done by this is an international. This is organized by a foundation in Poland called Innovo, and they are funded also. They are partners with the Norway grants. There's like many stakeholders in here, and it is an official report. There's nothing to do with my activities, nothing to do with the Puro hotels or SPCC, but we are supporting it. We are partners of the event where they will be publishing this report. But we are supporting them in the work that they're doing.
In the research.
Yes. But we cannot take any stars from from this.
It's a collective effort, right? So you also mentioned about the circular economy in general. Do you see, again, from all your work with digital transformation and sustainability, do you see circular economy taking shape, or is still more in sort of a drawing board? We talk more about it than we execute.
We talk more about
circular economy than we really implement it and we really execute the principles.
This is, of course, a challenge, but again, like what we started talking about at the beginning, I think that we have to build on people's awareness. What I would like to introduce in the company is some kind of training model where people are learning how to be aware and how they can see how their actions have an effect on the circularity when they're working, but also at home in their private lives, so that we are gradually having the ring effect of people being aware of how things are working. If we are, of course, like in the hospitality industry, like of course buildings account for a big part of their carbon footprint. So we have to be really, really conscious of using the building management system to its maximum effect. we are working on this. We are analyzing and we are looking how we can improve it further. But we, of course, have automated systems that are like ensuring that the lights are only on in common areas when needed. We are like having timers on the facade lighting, for example. We are making sure that the water is not being wasted. A lot of activities from the technical department in this aspect, for example. The chefs are continuously looking how we can reduce the food waste. And a buffet, I'm sure in the States it's the same as in Europe. We have a big problem with buffets, that people take more than they can eat. That goes straight in, as a waste, and that's not good for the circularity, of course. So we are working on how to reduce. On one hand, people should eat what they want to eat. At the same time, we don't want it to be wasted. So we are trying to kind of moderate with the size of the plates or with the size of the portions, that kind of activities. What else? Like we already spoke a lot about the social aspects. Of course, like that applies to the local communities, but also to our employees. We want them to feel well. And like I said before, by cooperating, by having a dialogue, by freeing up the time spent on mundane tasks, that people can better thrive and use their talents at work. I think that also can apply to the circularity aspects of the economy. What else? Of course, waste, segregation of waste.
Recycling programs as well.
Yes. Maybe.
Please go ahead.
I wanted to just mention something I forgot to mention. In terms of design, also, our design department is very much interested in the circularity aspects. And what they did recently is that they bought or installed in all our rooms in one of the hotels bedside tables made from recycled coffee beans. And they look good as well. Apart from the fact that it's made from recycled material. And we also have made a database of our furniture that is not used, so that we can use them in other places. So when this hotel that I mentioned before, the office that I mentioned before, that we did a lot of things to improve from the sustainability and many other aspects. We also used furniture that were previously used in the hotels. We would get them into the hotel. So we didn't buy new things. We were using what we already had.
Oh, excellent on examples of reuse. Focusing for a second on your role, do you lead a team, dedicated team for sustainability and ESG, or you actually share resources with different groups, as you mentioned before?
I would say that sustainability applies to all employees. I'm the only one who have it as an official responsibility in the company, but the point for me is that every single person have a role, so everybody should act responsibly. But in order for them to do that, they need to be educated. So we need to also share inspiration with them.
And you have the advantage of a shared space, so you can talk to all of them in a few minutes, as opposed to go around the closed rooms that you mentioned before.
Yes.
Oh, Isabella, I'd love to continue for another hour, but maybe I should turn it back to you. I think you're on mute. I cannot hear you.
Sorry. I said, thank you. I think that's a wonderful. I was actually showing you a coffee bean right here. I have on my table. Yeah, it's like half popped out when I was blending coffees. You're right. It smells fantastic. I love the smell of coffee. And I think we're all more or less in love of coffee, right?
Yes. And imagine that you can make a bedside table from it.
It will look and smell good at the same time.
I would question, is this good for sleeping or keeping you awake? But we'll leave this for another conversation.
Yeah, you better not consume it.
Yeah, that's so fun. Yeah, I really appreciate all these examples. Maybe the best way to wrap up the conversation is if you can just give us a quick a summary of the maybe 3 top tips or key takeaways out of this conversation to help those who want to make a change, who want to participate in this movement in this today's fast changing, digital world? What would be those top 3 tips, insights, piece of advice?
For sure, I'm just trying to think now. For sure, knowledge building, awareness. Yes, awareness of the circularity aspects and how you can make a difference. If you're a leader, definitely you should look for how you could spread this knowledge to your organization. 2, dialogue and communication, like we discussed before about how to introduce change with a dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
And 3, automate as much as possible. Rather than remembering to do things, if you have automated it, then it is easier to make sure that it's done. Like, for example, a building management system, you can automate things. Or in terms of digitalization, we simply remove paper because we introduced digital solutions to replace them.
Awareness.
And if I may add, actually, as much as possible, but not more, because you brought this example of the front desk where you try to automate the registration of the guest.
Good point.
And you have to know where to stop, not only where to start if you go on the automation.
Yes, that is so true. But automate where it makes sense to do it in terms of sustainability.
Exactly.
Awesome. So awareness, communication, and awareness/knowledge building and communication. And last thing, to free human to unleash their full potential as a human being.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Thank you. Thank you, Siren, for this lovely sharing and a lot of good examples to actually show us what can be done and how it can be done effectively. Really appreciate the conversation and thank you for taking the time. And of course, thank you to all of our audience also for tuning in. Make sure to join us for a new episode of AKFI's Actionable ESG Talk series. Every week, you will gain new perspective on how to mitigate risks and create value by integrating ESG and digital transformation. Until then, goodbye for now.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you so much. Such a pleasure to have you, Siren.
Thank you very much, Isabella.
Same here.